Hey, welcome to the Backyard Professor Responds videos. On January 29th, 2023, John Gee was interviewed on Interpreter Radio, where he gives a defense of the Book of Abraham. And he literally uses all of his old arguments. And I think part of the problem is the radio interviewer here put John in a very, very tight spot, and in a bad way. He made him look and sound very bad. So part of the problem here is the radio host did not do John Gee any favors whatsoever. I feel sorry for John Gee in some respects. John, you need to retire. I say that in a friendly fashion here. Not one of John Gee's arguments through the last 30 years, not one of his ideas or presentations or defenses of either the Book of Abraham, of Joseph Smith translating, of the papyri itself, of the relationship of the Kirtland Egyptian papers to the papyri, of the eyewitnesses to the papyri, etc., not one of his arguments have panned out and have convinced the Egyptological world that he has valid and actual Egyptologically accurate information. This is a very sad state of affairs. This is John Gee's biggest belly flop. It's horrid. It's a perfectly miserable. We go from the sublime to the ridiculous. Now, I want to respond to every one of those points, but there is almost no point to it. I cannot be accused of beating a dead horse if the apologists keep attempting to resurrecting this horse. So I am going to take, at this point in time, if you want me to go into great detail on this, please let me know in the comments, and I will revive many of my former pages. In fact, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Hold on real quick. Let me get to these. Let me actually take a look. It was about... It's been several years ago. No, it was in the lives sessions. Go to Mormon Discussions, Inc. On the home page, you can see about halfway in the middle of the screen, you have home, you have videos, you have shorts, you have live, you have playlists, community, channel, etc., going from left to right. Go to the live. Scroll down the live, and it takes quite a bit because this was quite a while ago that all of this occurred. And I will give you the number. And I did a series of videos on the Book of Abraham. Hold on, I'm trying to get to it. Hold on, I've done Book of Mormon, Book of Mormon. Yes, Mark Twain, Roughing It. Paul Osborne has shared an enormous amount of time. Okay, here we go. What I want to do, I will share my screen real quick so that you can see this. I'm going to share my screen. Oh. Maybe it won't work. Chrome tab, Mormon Discussions, Inc. Yes, I'm going to share the screen here. Okay. Getting clear on the Joseph Smith papyri and the facsimiles. Now, I'm scrolling through the live. You can see that this is the Mormon Discussion home screen, home video shorts live. Click on the live, scroll down to Question and answer session. That's not it. Okay. Backyard Professor, number 037 on facsimile number 3 in the Book of Abraham and Joseph Smith Papri. You can see I'm very animated there because this subject is important. Number 038, getting clear on the Joseph Smith Papyri. I go extensively in all areas, getting clear on the Joseph Smith Papyri. I show the papyri. I show the details. This is 040. This is number 041, getting clear on Joseph Smith Papyri and Book of Abraham. I go through all the details of all apologetic arguments. Backyard Professor 042, getting clear on the Book of Abraham, John Gee. 043, getting clear on the Book of Abraham. I go through Michael Dennis Rhodes' apologetic. Getting clear on the Book of Abraham facsimiles. I go through Hugh Nibley and John Gee and Michael Dennis Rhodes and others. 045, getting clear on the Joseph Smith Papyri. I bring in Dan Vogel's materials refuting the astronomy. Here you can see I'm giving explicit detail of where the hieroglyphics come from on the papyri in my number 046, getting clear on the Joseph Smith Papyri, astronomy and the facsimiles, I believe. Here's 047, getting clear on the Joseph Smith Papyri. Backyard Professor, the incredible Book of Abraham, studies of Shulam. This is a special live, 049, getting clear on the Joseph Smith Papyri, etc. 051, Book of Abraham facsimiles explained by Paul Osborne, one of the truly great scholars on the papyri. 052, the papyri and the plates. This is all on the web page Mormon Discussion Inc. You go, here's home video shorts, go to the live, and you can find my full analysis of all of the issues of the Joseph Smith Papyri. It's ridiculous to think none of this has been discussed. We have completely refuted the LDS apologetics on all scores. John Gee, in this interview, the radio interviewer sets this up in a very stupid way. And I've got the audio. I'm only going to respond to this one part. If you would like, I can upgrade. This was when I was first getting back into videos after a 4 or 5 year hiatus. And so I was a little rough with the papyri, and I was excited, and so I was sort of flying stuff around, etc. I can do a much more formal presentation. Welcome to all of you new subscribers. You may be new to this. You may not be aware that we have been covering these fantastic topics, such as the Book of Abraham, which I consider to be one of my very serious interests with the papyri. I am not an Egyptologist. I do claim to have studied a lot of this. Here is the first audio. I will play the first audio and respond and give you the proper. I've actually got 2 short audios here, just a minute each. Let's take a listen.
I'd like to get into the meat of things rather quickly, and that is that over the last 30 years, I have heard dozens and dozens and dozens of firsthand stories and emails from people who have said, I lost my son or I lost my daughter to stuff out of, in the 90s, it was Gerald and Sandra Tanner's stuff or somebody else's stuff on the Book of Abraham. And more recently, it is internet stuff. And the internet has all kinds of things that are inaccurate about the Book of Abraham. And I'm hoping, John, to elicit from you tonight some of the misinformation and correct it about the Book of Abraham.
And he never did. He's talking about sites like mine. I will challenge any apologist to a debate on the subject that I have presented on the papyri and the hieroglyphics in the facsimiles and the Kirtland Egyptian papers. Let's get together and let's talk about it. Because I know my information is far more accurate. It may not be total and complete. That's not what I'm claiming. But I've got the evidence on my side, and I can demonstrate that. Here is the second audio I wish to play. It's only about 1 minute, and then I will give my full response.
Well, we know Joseph Smith wasn't a true prophet because we found all of the Joseph Smith papyri, and it doesn't say what he says it did. And there are so many problems with that. But
he's saying that's what the critics say.
Hasn't been found, and what has been found, and the implications of it. Maybe we can start there.
Yeah, good place to start. So this is curious because I've even seen Egyptologists, other non-Latter-day Saint Egyptologists, even ones hostile to the church, saying that Joseph Smith had other papyri that we don't have. So I think that's the idea that we have everything doesn't work historically.
Okay, that's pretty much it. Okay, so what I wish to point out, and if I can do this in a gentle manner, is simply this. John Gee, shame on you. You are lying about the nature of the critics' claims, and you know it. Now, I will excuse your ignorant radio interviewer. He might not be as in-depth, but shame on you, because you're setting up a straw man, and you know this. Now, you want to be testimony building. You blew it. You've further convinced me. Look, we are in 2023, folks. Throughout this entire interview, they use all of John's old refuted theories that never panned out for actual reality of historical materials. Validity for the Book of Abraham. Nothing John Gee has produced has done so yet. There's not one Egyptologist out there who agrees with him. Not one. Unless they're Mormon. Because they're biased the way John Gee is. So here's my issue. I'm going to make this as clear and easy to understand as I can possibly make it. We do not claim we have all of the papyri that Joseph Smith had. That claim is a complete straw man. There is not one critic in print who claims we have all of the papyri that Joseph Smith had. Let's get this right, for crying out loud. It's 2023, John Gee. How often must you bring up this kind of ridiculous argument? It's absolutely ridiculous. We do, however, make a very important claim that these guys don't go into because they know it refutes their information. I'm going to show this plainly right now, and I will explain it. So let's take a look at this. Now, Let me see if I can share the screen so that you can see my mouse. Oh, I bet it won't. I bet it won't. Okay, never mind. I will describe it. Here we have, make sure, yeah. Here we have the entire overview argument. Up above, I have written in dark black ink, hieroglyphs for Egyptian alphabet is in the orange color. That's why I've colored Egyptian alphabet. And you can see that little rectangle right below those words with the arrow pointing up to it. Those hieroglyphs on the original papyri of facsimile number 1 that you see there went into the Egyptian alphabet. All of the orange, both to the left of this facsimile number 1, down by the laying down figure's feet, you can see the orange. Up by his head, we see green, a small green section up at the top on those 3 columns. That is the hieroglyphs that dealt with astronomy. And the rest of this orange is again the Egyptian hieroglyphs that went into the Egyptian alphabet. The one boxed figure there, the yellow one, this is the hieroglyph that Joseph Smith himself said was Abraham's signature. Now, we don't claim to have all of the papyri that Joseph Smith had, but it's really important to realize that Joseph Smith did have all the papyri when he translated the Book of Abraham. So he obviously knew which papyri were the Book of Abraham. That makes perfect sense. Right. Joseph Smith described the facsimile number 1, this lion couch scene that we see right here in the middle top with the figures, the humans, that picture. That is facsimile number 1. It was damaged. Joseph Smith cut that off of the rest of this roll of papyri, and he identified facsimile number 1 as being from the Book of Abraham. Now, the rest of this papyrus roll that you see, the 4 pink lines there, I showed you the orange here in the middle with the Egyptian alphabet, the astronomy, the rest of the orange and Abraham's signature. This is on the top half of this picture. The actual papyri up here, up top, facsimile number 1 was part of this roll, which has been identified as the Book of Breathings. Okay, simple. The Book of Breathings is the original Book of Abraham. We do not claim to have all of the papyri. That can't be overemphasized because that's what the apologists are lamely claiming, which is grossly incompetent and incorrect. We do claim to have the original papyri that the Book of Abraham was translated from, however. It is not lost. In 1967, this is part of the papyri that were brought back to the church. It was not destroyed in the museum, the Chicago Museum, by the fire in 1871. We have the original of the Book of Abraham. You're looking at it. It's the Book of Breathings. We know this because Joseph Smith said when he cut facsimile number 1 from the text, he said, this is from the book of Abraham. There it is. There's the book of Abraham. It just so happens that those 4 pink lines you see up in the upper left on the papyri, the pink, look directly below it. It shows those 4 pink colored lines of characters, B, C, D, and E to the left of them, the lower left corner. This is the hieroglyphs enlarged and spelled out. Then next to it is the chunk of papyri that those hieroglyphs came from. Now we see characters. This is the third part of the lower half of this picture. We see the hieroglyphs themselves, and they point over to this far to the right lower corner, the Book of Abraham. I've got it labeled as the Book of Abraham in my own handwriting right there. Each one of these hieroglyphs was put in a column, and next to each one of those singular hieroglyphs that come from the Book of Breathings, which had the facsimile number 1 that Joseph Smith said came from the Book of Abraham, each one of these Egyptian characters are translated into sections of the Book of Abraham. Joseph Smith had scribes. He was dictating the translation of these hieroglyphs into the Book of Abraham, and he said that is what he was doing in the history of the church. He said, I began to translate the papyri, and it's the Book of Abraham. The Book of Joseph, he also claimed, we don't have the Book of Joseph. In a nutshell, and there's many more angles of evidence. I can go into this. I did in my videos. That's why I was at pains to show you those videos available on Mormon Discussion Inc. Go over to the videos and scroll down to those numbers 38 to 52 or something like that. I have extensively analyzed this, you guys. I have had professional scholars, Brian Hauglid, who was involved for decades with the Book of Abraham. He is one of the authors of the Joseph Smith Papers book that dealt with the papyri. He wrote and said that my presentation was crystal clear and very accurate. He was very impressed that I had this figured out. I did an entire show on John DeLynne's Mormon Stories podcasts with Gerardo, where we showed all of this information as well. So I also have an Egyptologist living right now, Tamis Mekis, who has verified my approach and understanding to the papyri that they are not the Book of Abraham, and that the relationships with these being translated into the Book of Abraham, these hieroglyphs, do not translate into the Book of Abraham. It's a funeral document. Again, please, so that I can be crystal clear, we do not claim to have all of the papyri that Joseph Smith had, but we certainly do claim to have the original of the Book of Abraham. We don't need all the rest of the papyri to test Joseph Smith's translation. We have the original. I just showed it to you. These are available in beautiful color on the church's Joseph Smith Papers project online. You can look them up yourself. So, and that's all I want to respond to for now. They went into all kinds of stuff that Guy has produced through the years. None of it's valid. I'm not trying to just skip over and dismiss John Guy's material. I did not do so in my former videos on Mormon Discussion Inc. I would highly encourage you to go re-review those videos. Some of them are long. I went on a deep dive. I will be happy to do so again and clean up the presentation a little bit. I have since learned a few new things that I did not know when I made these videos about, it's been about a year, about 9 months ago or so. So I continually can try to keep up. I will say uncategorically, the apologists, and I am so sorry I have to put it this way, I wish they would give me another option, you guys. The apologists are certainly, as of 2023, being seriously deceptive in what they are saying about the papyri and the issues with the Book of Abraham. And that's disappointing. It's not surprising, but it's disappointing. We have been continually updating and analyzing, and the apologists have stayed way back to the 2000s up to 2010 type of information. They will not update. They will not acknowledge that their theories are pure baloney, and they are. I have professional Egyptologists who have personally talked to me and told me that. This is why they publish in Interpreter. This is why they get radio interviews on Interpreter Radio. It's a organization Daniel C. Peterson started because they cannot get published in professional Egyptological journals. When it comes to the Joseph Smith papyri and the relationship of the Egyptian hieroglyphs to the papyri, their theories are Egyptological baloney. And I promise I am being charitable. So that's my response for now to this John Gee radio interview. It goes quickly from a good start, and it went downhill from there. There is no valid Egyptological information in this radio interview as of 2023. And John Gee has been working in this field for 30 years, and not one of his publications has been verified Egyptologically by the Egyptological academia world and been accepted as valid. Not one. So thanks for watching my Backyard Professor Responds. Again, if you wish, if you wouldn't mind, at the backyardprofessor.org, you can donate, and that helps keep me doing my research. It gives me a little bit of spending money. I do appreciate the support and the love. Thank you for all of those who are donating. I do appreciate you. And I will return to this subject again because there are new articles put out, again, more on the Book of Abraham, where they are completely mischaracterizing the ancient history of Egypt, and they are completely mischaracterizing the provenance of the Joseph Smith papyri. And in order to present their theories, they literally have to ignore everything Joseph Smith said, which I find horribly, deeply ironic. So thanks for watching my Backyard Professor Responds videos. I'll see you on the next one.